In this training, I'm going to show you how to use your workday like a laser to cut your way towards your dream life. So the goal is not to put in time and effort. The goal is to get shit done with the time that you have to spend locked in front of a screen. And this is a significantly different way of doing business because nobody is likely to be sitting over you with a time clock in this world. And particularly if it's your own business, man, it can be tough. Procrastination has killed vastly, exponentially more dreams than failure has. I mean, by a long way. Failing is part of the game, honestly, and just propels you forward with more intelligence. Procrastination will kill you, though. That'll knock you out of the game. And it very nearly knocked me out of the game. The quote I chose to begin with from E.B. White: "I arise in the morning torn between a desire to improve the world and a desire to enjoy the world." And this makes it hard to plan the day. So let's understand the problem. What's the root of the problem? Why is it that there's something that we really want? We fucking want it. We want to win this game. We want it very badly. We have the capabilities to do it. We understand how to do it. We've studied it. We've learned it. We took 20 programs about how to build a website or whatever it is you're fucking doing, right? We understand how to do it. We want it very badly. But we're not doing it. Why aren't we doing it? Why aren't we doing it? Well, first of all, because when you're in the online world, there's always something better to do than work. And it's one click away. It's like, it's right fucking there. It's always right there. Or it's like right out the window, or it's your buddy calling you or texting you or the email or the whatever. There's always something better to do than work. Secondly, there's always work to do when you're doing something else. And this is, I'm going to explain more about why this is such a problem. But when you're not working, you're always thinking, fuck, I should be working right now. Fuck, I should be working right now. And it's exhausting when you should be resting up so that you can come back and fight hard. It's like you never get out of the fucking ring because you could always be working right now. And that is one of the things that triggers this procrastination thing. It's aware that when you're not working, you're still going to be worried about working. And so it's like, when do I get my turn? When do I get my turn? And it creates an addiction. It creates an addiction to fucking around and procrastinating because we feel like we never get it. Otherwise, we don't get it, And then we go, if you have a family, like when you're with your family, you're thinking about work. But when's my time? When do I get to jerk off and be with me and just do nothing, So third thing is your work is more visible. It will be evaluated, right? You're not punching a clock anymore. You can't. It's not as easy to foist it off on other things. It's your work that's going to be evaluated. And the other possibility is the work is actually important to you. It's your business, right? If you're trying to start your business, and I think a lot of the people that are watching this, that's exactly what they're thinking. This work is super important to you. It's like you've got a lot of skin in the game. It's your name on it suddenly. And that's scary, because it's so important to you that you're afraid to fail. And so it's easier to not get started and find out that you're going to fail. And that leads to fear, which is the other big one, and it deserves its own little card here. So obviously, fear of failure, fear of finding out that it works, finding out it doesn't work. What if I find out that it's more work than I thought it was going to be? What if it's like, just like when it's a fantasy, it's a fantasy. Once you start to work, you're going to find out, it takes longer than I thought, or it's harder than I thought, or, you know what I mean? It's like, it's not just fear of failure, it's fear of finding out, and it's fear of being found out. Like, I'm not as great as I was pretending to be. Like, if I did that, I could probably be successful. And maybe you told your friends you were thinking about starting an online thing. And then, what if I'm humiliated by this? But fear is also the motivator of last recourse for us procrastinators. Now, I don't know if everybody on here is a chronic procrastinator like I was my whole life, a total washout at age 39 until I finally began to get my shit together. Fear is what motivated me. I was the guy, and you may be too, the guy or the gal who uses fear as the motivator of last recourse. Your professor says, or your teacher says, you got to get this paper done by the second week in September. And the night before, there you are, sweaty, with coffee, trying, I got to finish this. Because until it was that desperate, until it was so awful that you just couldn't take it anymore, until the fear was so blown out, you couldn't motivate yourself to do anything. But the there's some problems with that, right? I mean, because fear is also the thing that's causing procrastination, and it's the only thing that motivates you, and you get yourself into a shitty circle. So the thing is, I used to be into fighting. I used to be a martial arts guy, and when you're sparring, you get in there, and it's cool and it's fun, and I was pretty good. But when I got into like something competitive, I got into the ring where we were like, we could hurt each other. I found myself extremely nervous and afraid. And as I walked in there, my fear made me kind of feel exhausted and defeated. And half the time, I didn't really have the balls to go all out and see how far I could go to win a fight. I was just like, if the guy was good, I'd kind of tap out. I didn't want to get hurt, And I felt exhausted. And I heard recently an interview with Mike Novogratz, who you might have heard of. He's a big hedge fund guy, billionaire. And he was talking about how he used to be a very competitive wrestler. He was like an All-American in college. And he said something, and I was like, oh, fuck yes, that's me. He said, he was really good in all the early rounds, but then when it came to the final round, the one where it was all or nothing, this was the big one. If he won this one, then he would get so wrapped up in how badly he wanted to win that when he got to the mat, he felt exhausted before the fight began, before the wrestling match in this case began. I was like, yes, that's it exactly. And this is exactly how it feels when you get to your desk. You get to your desk and you just before you even begin to work, you're like, not ready. It's like, and you may have been coffeeing up and you were feeling good. And you went through a morning ritual and you're like ready for work, and you get to the desk and you're like, oh, you fucking don't want to. And then you don't have enough energy in your tank to fight the procrastination, to laser focus in on what you're doing, because you're just you're wiped out. And you're wiped out because of this fear that's running in the background that's just absorbing so much fucking energy. And I'd like to remind you at this point in the presentation that you're going to die. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, right? But we're all going to die. This is just a fact. It's one of these facts, like the marketocracy, that we know about, but we don't behave as if we know about it. We really do have a kind of limited time left. I don't know how long, but I know it's not forever. And you got to ask yourself, really seriously, do you want to spend your life sitting at the desk feeling exhausted? I don't want to do this, even though it's something important to you, and then the only way to finally motivate yourself is when you're like, fuck, the rent is due, I better fucking do something. And then you finally start, this mix of disgusting fear about being found out and the procrastination and the, oh God, I got to get this done or I'm fucked. Is that how you want to spend your day after day, knowing that this is your one shot at life? And my answer is no, and yours is too, right? So then that brings us to this very important question that I think is one of the real keys to unlocking this procrastination demon, which is, if I'm not going to be motivated by fear, guilt, or shame, then what will I choose to fund my motivation? And this is a little tricky, because if what you're motivated by is the desire to succeed, and you know that you might fail, you loop right back to fear again, right? You loop back to fear. That's where we started. That's how we got to fear, right? It's important to you. This is it's your baby. This is important work to you. And that causes fear of discovery, of imposter syndrome. So you got to figure out how to motivate yourself in a way that's not going to trigger the fear. Find your motivation. Now, here's some of mine. I'm telling you, if nothing on this list works for you, then you got some work to do, my friend. You got to find the thing that motivates you in a positive direction that doesn't trigger your fear. So I say, don't do what's not inspiring. Don't do what's not inspiring. If you're not inspired when you sit down to do that work, then you have two choices. One is to rethink what you're doing. Don't do it. Do something else. Do something that really is inspiring to do, not just to win, right? Inspiring to do, not just to win. A buddy of mine runs charity water, and it's phenomenal charity. You should go over to charitywater.org and go donate $20 and give water to a real human being for 20 years. But it's inspiring. He gets up in the morning, it doesn't win or lose. He gets to tell people what he's working on, and what he's working on is inspiring. So win or lose, it's inspiring. So either rethink it if it's not inspiring to you, or reframe it until it is inspiring. Like right now, you may be thinking, how cool will it be when I have given water to 1 million people? And that's going to launch fear. So you've got to figure out how to reframe this until you can find the way to articulate this thing so that it inspires you, right? And a lot of times there is such a reframe available. You just have to rethink it and rethink it and reframe it until it's inspiring, or do something else. Second thing is don't serve you, serve the art or the purpose or the cause. And I had a great example of this come up in my mastermind group that I run, that some of you here today are in. One of the guys in the group is a musician, and he's a very talented musician. He loves music, but he finds that like sometimes, like the making the calls and doing the contacts and getting the stuff out to the person that needs to hear it, and creating a group of people who they get together all the time and they jam and they record, like the stuff that it would take to get this music heard, is he procrastinates. And I said, that's because you're doing it for you. And you're looking at it like, oh, I could survive or fail. But I could tell that what he loved was the music itself. So what I said to him, and it wasn't the first time I said it, but it was just a great example of this because it worked so well for him, as I said, dude, don't serve you, serve the music. It's the music that matters. You've got a gift. You're good at this. And only you have your particular angle on how to make music. You're the guy who does the thing that you do. And if you love this music and you want it to have a life, you want to give birth to it, you want it out there. And if you don't fucking do it, nobody will. Nobody can make your music. They can only make their music. And their music is going to be different than your music. You've got to serve the music. Be a servant, not a master. Be a servant of the music. And the permission that gives you when you serve the art that you're doing in life, is that it's not about you, and it de-fears you. It's not about winning or losing. It's not about whether you look good or look bad. You're not there to look good. You're not there to impress anyone. You're not there to make yourself a bunch of money. You're there to serve the cause, to serve the art, to serve the thing that you're creating in the world. And when you get that, that's inspiring. That's inspiring, and it's a way to motivate yourself without triggering your fear. Or do this other thing that is my primary, this is my go-to procrastination slayer. Serve the audience that you're reaching. Like, I'm serving you guys right now. I'm serving you. I'm not afraid of looking like a fool because I'm not thinking about me. This isn't about me. It's about you and how badly I want your success. And when I'm in that frame of mind, how badly I want your success, it's a lot less scary for me because you're the guys that are going to have the skin in the game, right? You're going to win or lose on your online venture. So serve the audience, like put them first, not you first. Believe that your work is crucial, worthwhile, or needed. It doesn't matter, what you're doing. Believe that your work is crucial and worthwhile and needed. This goes to self-esteem, and it goes to worthiness, and it goes to doing something you really believe is of value to other humans. And if you can do that, you'll find your motivation. Cultivate the belief that setbacks are part of the process and that you will succeed in the end. And when I say that, I mean, even if it's delusional, it doesn't matter. Just doesn't matter if it's true. Just believe that setbacks are part of the process and that you'll succeed in the end. And the setbacks and the fear of setbacks won't fuck with you as much. And believe me, I know that there are people who are lucky out of the gate, but very fucking few. And I certainly haven't been. I have had a ridiculous number of setbacks in this business, a ridiculous number. And sometimes they cluster. You can go 2 years where every fucking thing you try blows up in your face. And let me tell you something, it's easy to get discouraged. It's easy to get discouraged because you're alone in your bedroom. You're not, you know what I mean? It's really different. It's really different in the online world to keep your courage up. So you've just got to cultivate, even if it's delusional, the belief that the setbacks are part of the process, and they really are, and that you will succeed in the end. And then finally become process oriented. Like, love the work, not the result. Don't get so, like everybody says, you got to set big goals, have big dreams. Sure. But I don't sit down in the morning thinking about the millions I'm going to make. I sit down thinking about the work I do and how much I like it and how I'm serving my audience and how I'm serving the art and how I believe my work is crucial and worthwhile. And I just do today. and I like today. I enjoy this work. I'm in the process, not in the result. And that is extremely freeing for those of us who are procrastinators. So that's the big picture stuff. I want to get into the essential tactics, and then I'm going to just swing over and see if I have any very serious Q&A going on here with you guys. Except I can't seem to find that screen now. That's funny. Okay. Well, all right. I guess I continue because I can't seem to get back at that screen without stopping sharing, and I don't want to do that. Okay. So, wonder if I reduce that? No, that didn't work. Okay. I guess I'm taking questions all at the end, fellas. All right. The essential tactics. Schedule your porn and use porn blockers. And when I say porn, I don't necessarily mean porn. It could mean porn, could be porn, but your porn, right? Your porn. Your porn might be looking at naked people, but your porn also might be, as mine is, like my biggest porn is travel porn. I subscribe to a bunch of travel newsletters. I really like to travel. I do travel a lot. And when I'm not traveling, I think about travel a lot. And I talk about travel a lot. I really like to travel. So, if there's an email from Condé Nast Traveler with a bunch of cool articles about cool places to go, that's crack for me, right? It's super addictive. I have other forms of porn too. I've got all kinds of porns. I have information porn. God save me if I have to go to Wikipedia to look something up because I can't get off again. I'm stuck. As soon as I get onto Wikipedia, I am stuck in an endless loop of following hyperlinks because I love information. I just happen to have this weird thing with information. So figure out what your porn is and schedule it. Don't not do it. Don't not do it. Schedule it as if it's important. And it's not important. It's porn's the least important thing in your life. That's what I mean. When I put porn in quotes, what I mean is the most unimportant, trivial thing that you do to relax your brain. Okay? That stuff. Put it on your calendar. The reason you got to put it on your calendar is you got a lot to do. You also got to, you got to wash the car, sweep the garage. You got to cook dinner. You got to spend some time with your wife or your kids or your husband or right. You got the stuff you got to do. And then you got your work you got to do. When your porn never gets, the only time your porn can come out is when you're working. It's the only time you're alone, right? And for me, the travel websites, they are if my wife walked in and found me on a travel website when I'm supposed to be working, I'd be embarrassed. Right? Because I could be spending time with her or the kid, So it's that thing you're embarrassed about. Put it on the calendar. Make sure you get to it. Because otherwise it will not shut up when you're trying to get your work done. So put it on the calendar so that you're going to do it. And then when you have the urge to go do that thing, you're like, no, that's cool. It's on the calendar later. You got it? It's an incredible tactic. It is one of the most powerful ways of dealing with procrastination. And then when you're working, use porn blockers. And again, I'm not just talking about adult entertainment. I use a thing called self-control, probably at selfcontrol.com. That's the one I use, where every site that I enjoy, if I go to a new site and I enjoy it, the first thing I do is I add it to self-control. And then when I work, I turn this thing on and I can't unturn it on. There's no way for me to do any of my little porn, right? Everything's locked out except my work. So use porn blockers and schedule it. Schedule it first so that it doesn't shout in your ear all the time. And this is the only bullet in my entire presentation. The only thing I'm going to talk to you about that is bold, red, and underlined, because I believe that of all the tactics I will teach you about ending procrastination, this might be the most important one, and it's so counterintuitive. What I used to do, and what every procrastinator that I've ever coached does, is I used to punish myself when I couldn't finish my to-do list, or if I didn't feel like I worked hard enough. So out of 8 hours, I fucked around for 7.5 of them. I got 30 minutes of really serious, hardcore, focused work done in the entire day. And I was so angry with myself that I didn't let myself get up from the desk. That's it. I'm going to work all night. There's a couple of problems with this. Problem one is you're enabling your procrastination even further, because it secretly knows that if you don't get your work done now, you'll just do it later. Right? If you don't get your work done before 5 p.m. or in the slot that you allotted, well, you'll just do it later. You'll do it over the weekend. You'll do it when you were supposed to be out to dinner with your wife. You'll do it when you were supposed to be playing with your kid. So problem one is it actually enables more procrastination when you punish yourself and work harder when you didn't do, or work longer when you didn't do the work you were supposed to do. So just disallow it. Disallow that as an option, and you will actually get more control over your procrastination. That's one. Two, it will destroy your life because you have other stakeholders in your life. You got to call your mom. You got to play with your kid. You got to spend some time with the person you love. And if you don't currently have a partner, you got to go find yourself a partner. You got to get out there and be single and schmingle, right? You need to serve these other parts of your life, or your life will fall to shit. Like, you ignore your husband or wife long enough, they're going to leave you, or they'll have an affair. I mean, they'll hate you, or anything that it'll make your life unpleasant. Like, you just don't get to do this to other people. And when you punish yourself for your unfinished work, you are punishing a bunch of other people too, right? And your life stops working. So it's crucial to not do this. You got to figure out how to not do this, not beat yourself up over it either. Like, really, don't sit there going, oh, I didn't get my work done, I didn't get my work done, I didn't get my work done, when you're supposed to be playing with your kid. Okay? So don't just work longer. Don't take away your weekend. Don't do that. Don't do that. Life's too short. Life's too short. It doesn't work. It actually is counterproductive. Please get this. Please get this. Don't work longer. Work smarter. And force yourself to, by not giving yourself this out. You will have a better quality life, and your procrastination will magically get better. And on that note, as an experiment, condense the hours that you're allowed to work. Disallow yourself to work more hours than, X block. And then see what happens if that block is 8 hours. See what happens if you cut it to 4 hours. Just play with it. You may not stay there forever, but just play with it. For me, what I've found is particularly the most important work. I got a lot of shit I got to do. I run a business, right? Got a lot of shit I got to do. Some of it's trivial, some of it's important. The trivial work turns out to be easy to do. You don't procrastinate the trivial work. It's easy. And frankly, you shouldn't be doing it. You should be delegating it, but that's for somebody else's webinar, not this one. This really isn't about time management or, hiring or delegating. It's not about that. It's about procrastination. But I'm telling you that if you just look at your most important thing, the thing that's really your gift, the really deep part of the work that really makes you different and better and is the really juicy stuff that you got to get out of you. That's the stuff you're most likely to procrastinate. So that stuff you're only allowed to do from X hour to X hour, maybe a 2-hour window. And then after that, you're not allowed to. No matter how inspired you get, you're not allowed. And if you do that, you'll be watching that clock going, fuck, I only got 59 minutes left. And you'll work harder, more focused, better. Like, you'll really make a difference. You may want to limit it to 30 minutes, especially at first, if you're a horrible, horrible procrastinator. Like, really bind it tightly, 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 and see if you don't get more done, because you show up more fully, more present, and you actually work the hours you're sitting at your desk. And not, oh, maybe I should check email and see if that thing came in that would, it's a very important thing and I am waiting for it to come in. But dude, it can totally wait until you're finished with your work. And it will wait until you're finished with your work if you know that it's bound very, very tightly. So take your crucial work and force yourself to get it done in a condensed time. Very, very powerful tactic. Leverage, accountability, claims, and dependence. Get leverage on yourself by making it humiliating to not get your work done. Get accountability going. The best accountability that I have found is people who are dependents upon my work, because I hired people, you see. And I hope that you also have employees, or someday will have employees. Hiring people is one of the best things you can do to destroy your procrastination, because it's easier to procrastinate your boss. That's like your fucking problem, than it is to procrastinate the people who work for you, because you want them to work hard. And if they see that you're a lazy fuck, then they're not going to work hard for you. And like, it's just so important. Your image in front of them feels important. And so you'll get it done because, they're waiting for that piece. So make a claim. Say, hey, person that works for me, I'm going to have this to you by Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. Will you be ready to work on your part of this at 9 a.m. on Tuesday? And they're like, yeah, got it, boss. And now you have to do it. I also do that with my audience. I tell my audience, hey, on Thursday, I'm going to teach a thing on procrastination. Now I got to do the outline. I don't have a choice. So I did it to right. That's my accountability. That's my dependence. That's my claims. Works. Practice saying no more often. This is something that I've also talked about in my group that I run. It's a really, really powerful way to deal with focus and procrastination in a larger sense. Like we say yes to too many things, and then we have too many things on our to-do list, and then we look at our to-do list and it freaks us out, and then we don't get anything done because we're like, I don't know what to do first. Say no more often to more things. You get really, really clear on saying no more. And if you know this is a problem for you, that you take on more than you ought to, and then you get overwhelmed, if you already know that's you, as a life-changing, powerful practice, just start forcing yourself to say no more in life in general, because then you'll be able to say no more professionally. Like, just get good at saying no. Just say no to people. Say no when you're neutral. When you're like, yeah, I could go either way. Just say no. Like, practice saying no and force yourself to say no at least 3 times a day. Like check, check, check. And if you get 3 checks, 3 no's, you get to put an X on the calendar and try and stack up the X's for 30 days. Get good at saying no. It'll change your life for the better. And finally, on the same subject, on a related subject, a guy named Gary Keller wrote one of the most popular business books of all time called The One Thing. And for me, this was a really, really powerful book. I'm going to summarize it in a single sentence because the whole book is summarizable in a single sentence. You may or may not want to go read it. Obviously, it's one of the most popular business books ever written for a reason, so maybe read it. But basically, the question is, what's the one thing that I could be doing right now, such that by doing that one thing, everything else on my to-do list would be easier, or I wouldn't have to do it at all, right? Like, they might just go away. Maybe they'll just go away. If I could just get this one thing done, maybe everything else is unimportant, or at least will be easier. And that's like, really figure that out and make that the only thing you have to do that day. Now, if you get other things done, great, bonus. And you might say, well, the other things are urgent too. I got to do that too. I got to do that too. Yeah. Don't worry about it. Just make sure you get that one thing done. Figure out what that one thing is for every month, for every week, and for every day. And that's the thing. Like, you just then force yourself to 1 hour, got to get it done in that hour, and just fucking drill on that one thing. And then the rest of the day, you'll feel no pressure. And that'll make it easy to not procrastinate and get stuff done, because there won't be pressure, because you got that hour in on the one thing. So that should be the only thing in your mind, is the one thing. Just gut it out and get an hour of that done, and the rest of your day will be easy. Those are the essential tactics. Here are the essential tools. These are the tools I use. Again, there are probably others out there. There are probably other tactics out there, but these things really fucking work like crazy. And these tools work for me like crazy, so I'm going to share them with you briefly. First of all, I just think this is a no-brainer, man. People have already told you this, and for some reason you're not doing it. Probably. Get enough sleep. Make sure you exercise every day. You're like, I have too much to do. Make sure you sleep. Get enough sleep. Get your exercise every day, not some days, every day, and eat well. It's so stupid. But if you have an all carb diet, or you're like, I don't have time, I'm just going to grab McDonald's, dude. If you didn't have time and you just grab McDonald's, then your time is going to be worthless, because you're not going to have any energy. Like, it just makes those chemicals make you lethargic. They make you depressed. They literally change your mood. And honestly, the more you eat it, if you eat a lot of junk food, the more you eat it, the less it has a negative effect on you. But you'll be amazed at how much more clearly you think when you're off it for a month. And you'll also be amazed if you're off it for a month. Like, for me, if I eat McDonald's hamburger, by the way, I love fast food burgers. And every now and then I will have one. But it's going to be on a Sunday when I know I can nap afterwards. Because if I eat one of those things, I just get enough sleep, get your exercise. It will give you so much more energy, and you'll be more productive. I mean, if you procrastinate your day away, you got nothing done anyway. So get your sleep done, and you won't procrastinate, and at least you'll get something done. It really makes a difference. Road work. Again, this is a tool that for me is indispensable. Your results may vary, but I take a walk every morning. I take a walk every morning, 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes if I can. I take a walk as fast as I can. First of all, it takes care of that exercise thing a little bit. Like, at least I did something before I sat down all day. A guy named Gary Halbert, by the way, one of the most famous marketers of all time, super successful dude, is the one who called taking a morning walk road work. Kind of stealing from Gary there. But it does a couple of things. One is first thing in the morning, it gets your blood going. Your circulation is moving, and it's important because then you're not as lethargic. It gets calcium ions out of your bloodstream into your bones where they belong, which gives you a lot more energy and a lot less lethargy. So this is like real stuff. You get some UV light, blue light into your eyes in the morning, and that does a bunch of stuff for your circadian rhythm and for your good mood hormones and all that kind of stuff. It makes you happier and more engaged for the rest of your day. Really recommend it. Really recommend it. And I also take advantage of that time to listen to audiobooks. So I get my schooling in at the same time. Whatever I'm up to in life, like what the part of my business I'm working on, whether that's management, hiring, marketing, doesn't matter. There's great books on all of it, right? Listen to it in the morning, get fired up, and go do your day. Use a timer. If you don't use a timer, you're out of your mind. It's one of the most essential tools for procrastinators. I think most people will tell you 45 minutes is the optimum amount of time for the human to focus, after which you start getting diminishing returns. And, the really like serious people who do the Pomodoro and all that, they say, you work 40 minutes, you take a 5-minute break, you work another 40 minutes, and then now you've got a 90-minute block in, and then you like stop for a little longer, you exercise a little bit or drink some water, have some food. My timer is a 30-minute timer. 30 minutes is what I can do. Okay. I have insane ADD. I'm an awful procrastinator, but I can sit for 30 minutes. Set that timer for 30 minutes and fucking dive in. At the end of 30 minutes, you don't just walk away because, at least for me, I'm screwed. Set another timer for 5 minutes and have a break routine. I knew there was a bullet on that. Have a break routine. Don't leave your break up to chance. Have a break routine. My break routine includes like a bunch of calisthenics and get out of my chair. I do, arm swings and trunk twists, and I do some front kicks and hip circles and deep knee bends until my ass touches the floor. I get all blood going so that I'm not, in that lethargic state. And also because I don't want to die younger from sitting too much, which apparently being sedentary does kill you more than cigarettes do. So get up, run around, get your pulse going, do some shadow boxing, put on some loud music and dance like a fool in front of the mirror. But have a break routine that you're going to do, so it's not an accident, right? So I walk very quickly to get a glass of water, chug it, I walk back, and I do my break routine, and I sit down, and I get back to work. Intermittent fasting. This is a tool that I found recently that really works for me. The basic science, maybe bullshit, maybe it's placebo, seems to be working for me. The basic science is that your brain runs better on ketones than on carbohydrates. And when you do the intermittent fasting for a while, and actually the first couple of times you do it, it's just painful and you're hungry. But over time, you get pretty good at it. And I find it hones your focus. Ernest Hemingway swore by it. He would never eat until he got his pages in, and then he'd, get smashed. But it really works for me. It really works for me. I don't eat until 3:00. And I find that it's supposed to be healthy, by the way. You're supposed to live longer. There's a lot of studies. I'm not a doctor, but it's supposed to be good for a lot of stuff. But what I find is that it's very good for my focus. And the other thing is I eat an enormous amount, and starting at 3:00, I start eating that enormous amount. And turns out it's pretty time consuming to prepare food, eat food, and put the dishes in the dishwasher. So don't waste that time, is what I say. This has been really, really good for me. Intermittent fasting has been really, really powerful for me. I recommend trying it, testing it. And as part of that, I take medium chain triglyceride powder every morning, also known as Bulletproof Coffee. You've probably heard about this stuff. So medium chain triglycerides are how I get myself into ketosis. I doubt very much that I am burning any fat in my system, because you really actually need to fast longer than I'm fasting to get that done. But your liver will preferentially and very easily take certain kinds of fats in your blood and immediately make ketones out of them that are really good for your focus in your brain. And that's coconut oil, because it has these medium chain triglycerides. But you can also I buy this powder that's just powdered MCT oil. It's got some kind of like corn husk fiber binding this oil. Anyway, I take a scoop of this shit, I put it in my coffee, doop, knock it back. That's my breakfast. It takes like no time at all, and I am super focused. Monkey ass is is the other thing. You might want to try eating some monkey ass. No, so monkey ass is what I call my, there are all these products out there, the Onnit brand, I think makes brain octane. And the one that I take is called, it doesn't matter, right? It really doesn't matter. But there are a bunch of nootropic things out there that are supposed to help you with your focus and your concentration. And I intermittently take them, and I find that they may or may not be a little bit helpful in my focus, and they make you a little bit smarter and a little more focused. So the ones that I take, which are called Qualia Mind, they're quite expensive. You're supposed to take 7 of them on an empty stomach, and they taste just like monkey ass. My wife smelled them, and she was like, smells like monkey ass. So that's why I call them monkey ass. So I take my monkey ass probably 2 or 3 days a week with my MCT oil and coffee. But the reason that I mention the MCT and the intermittent fasting and all this, because the MCT for me personally, is much more focus enhancing than any of the crazy herbs and whatevers. I do the MCT every morning. I do the monkey ass once in a while. So consider it. They're pretty good tools. It may work for you. And finally, one of my essential tools that I found is the right music. Now, put on your timer, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, 90 minutes, whatever your timer is, what do you believe you can do, and then find the music that helps you work. It makes a significant difference if you can find the music that helps you work. Different people work well with different music. I started listening to these brain entrainment things, like theta waves or beta waves or whatever fuck waves, some kind of waves. You put on a headset and it just goes, it's supposed to help. I don't know. If it helped at all, it was at best placebo for me. I graduated to music that doesn't have any kind of words in it because I found words distracting. So there was a channel, I think, on YouTube called Jazz and Coffee or something, or Morning Coffee, whatever. And it's like, it's like jazz, which I don't really like jazz very much, to be honest with you, but it's kind of like easy, smooth jazz. And I would listen to it. And it actually really did help my productivity relative to silence. Huge benefit. And for those of you who find it easier to work in a buzzy office, but you can't work in a buzzy office because of COVID, you will find that listening to music really helps. It really, really helped me to focus and to concentrate and procrastinate a lot less. Once those headphones are on and my timer is on, man, I know, I've also got a bit of a Pavlov response baked in now, because I know when that headset goes on, I work, right? So it probably works for that reason as well. But then I read somewhere from Tim Ferriss, who you probably have heard of. He has a book called Tribe of Mentors, I think, or anyway, one of his books, where he has basically condensed the morning habits, routines, and tricks for getting more productive from all kinds of world-class humans, CEOs, Olympic athletes, and Nobel scientists, and all these kinds of people. And it turns out that an enormous number of them find one specific track of music that they find helps them to focus. One specific thing that really helps them. And they play that song on auto loop. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. So I started doing that, and that's been the best yet for me. Again, I think, different people have different brains. We're wired differently. But if you can find the thing that works for you, and it turns out, by the way, the music that's been working the best for me lately has lyrics and is stuff that I enjoyed as a kid that gets me fired up. Music that gets me fired up. And what happens is, at first, it was distracting to me, but now, because it's on loop, I don't hear it anymore, but it still fires me up. I'm actually listening to Three Dog Night, Shambhala, oh, yeah. That one, from way back in the 70s. Now that song probably came on the radio when I was, 5 years old or something. For some reason, that shit gets me fired up. And it's just baked in there, man. I put that thing on. I've probably listened to it 10 million times in the last 3 weeks. Works for me, though. And when it stops working, I'll find a new song. And so those tools have been super, super fucking effective for me. Your mileage may vary, but I super recommend that you at least experiment with them. And the more of these things you stack up, the more leverage you're going to get on yourself. Finally, I leave you with a quote from Stephen Pressfield. And by the way, I really recommend his book called The War of Art. It is one of the great books ever for dealing with procrastination that arises because the work really means something to you, because it's important to you. And the more important it is, the more it means something to you, the harder it is to actually get it done, because we have this emotional need to get it right, and that is scary and that fucks us up. So if that feels like, oh yeah, that's me, then by all means, get The War of Art. It's an incredible book. Stephen Pressfield said, the amateur believes that she must have all her ducks in a row before she can launch her startup or compose her symphony or design her iPhone app. The professional knows better. Has your husband just walked out on you? Has your El Dorado been repossessed? Keep writing, keep composing, keep shooting film. Athletes play hurt, warriors fight scared. And that, my friends, is what I got for you here today. And I am going to take Q&A in the chat box. Tools of Titans is the book by Tim Ferriss, right? Not Tribe of Mentors. That was Tools of Titans. Thank you, Kip. Yeah, by the way, also super recommend that book. Phenomenal book, incredibly inspiring. War of Art, phenomenal book, incredibly inspiring. If you've got work you believe is super important inside of you that you want to get out, those two books will really, really be helpful. So here I am in the chat box waiting to see if you have any questions about getting shit done, focus, procrastination, or anything at all about starting your own business online or working in the online environment that I might be able to share with you from my 16 years of experience doing this shit. All right. How did you decide on your business? Well, in many ways, my business was determined by what had already been a great passion of mine that I didn't realize was a passion. So that helped me kind of accident into it. I got pretty lucky because I met Eben. And prior to that, I literally, so I was a screenwriter in Hollywood. And man, I was also a bartender, and frankly, all I did was 10 bar and play on the beach. I just played on the beach. I was in LA, and I chased women, and I played on the beach, and I had every fucking excuse to not get my writing done. And I had incredible opportunities that I frittered away. I optioned a few things, but I wrote so few hours, man. So I worked 2 nights a week. This is just how bad my procrastination was. I worked 2 nights a week behind a bar at a very popular dance club. And I had this rent control apartment that was smaller than a shoebox, but I only paid like $450 a month for. So the 2 nights a week was enough. And then I would just rollerblade and enjoy myself, whatever. But the idea was I worked 2 nights a week so that 5 days a week I'd be writing. And if I got 3 hours of work done a week, it would be amazing out of all the time that I was supposed to be writing. And I would sit there and bang my head against the keyboard and not get anything done, and then not go out with my friends to punish myself, right? And anyway, I met Eben at a time when I really ran out of money because something that I had written was picked up by NBC, and it really looked like it was going to happen. And then I just frittered away the opportunity in many ways. But also, I don't want to bore you with the details, but the thing went into turnaround, and it looked like after everybody promised, that shit was going to happen, it didn't happen. And I had no backup plan. And I met Eben at that time, and he asked me to write some stuff on one of his websites. I wrote a bunch of articles, and a bunch of them were on the subject of sex and intimacy. And because it was a passion of mine, like an actual passion, never occurred to me I could make money writing about that stuff. But they were super popular on the website that he put them on. And then that made him read them. And he said, dude, these are incredibly different from everything else that's out there. You've got a really unique perspective on this. You should write a book, and I'm going to help you. And he mentored me, and he taught me so much about self-discipline and running a business and all the things I didn't know, as a bartender and as a guy with big dreams and very little focus and very little ability to control my procrastination and my ADD. And if not for Eben, I would be nobody. Honestly, I got so lucky. I got so lucky to meet him, and that's why I talk about him so much. And he's a dear friend and a great mentor. And so in a way, it was an accident. But that, across time, it was really hard for me to get that business rolling because, again, procrastination. Even though it was something I was incredibly passionate about, and it was a gift I really wanted to give. And then as I honed more what my real purpose was, and I realized how I could be using this as an on-ramp to teach the things that I really felt were significant, that I wanted to give to the world as my gift around universal human compassion and self-understanding and self-worthiness. Yeah, it became, better and better for me. So that's how I figured that out. And now suddenly I have a lot of questions. This is good. All right. So Nick Bill says, I really resonated with the red line. Yeah, man. It's like, it's incredible how we do this. We punish ourselves and it doesn't work. It actually feeds the procrastinator in you. And procrastination is kind of like an addiction. And it really enables the addiction of procrastination, and it fucks your life up. So don't do it. Gary says, I was waiting to get my cybersecurity consulting company going, but do not know how to get started. So, yeah, man, this is like, first of all, get stuff done every day, get a website going, get a YouTube channel going. There's so many ways to get started in this consulting thing. Figure out who the big cybersecurity consultants are out there, and look at their ads. Their ads are the ones that are working. Your ads should look a lot like their ads. Start a YouTube channel or a blog. If you start a blog, do it on medium.com, because Google likes Medium and it doesn't give a fuck about you. Like starting a website at this point when there's a trillion websites online is not the way to get noticed. Get onto medium.com. Google likes that. Get onto YouTube. Google owns that. And start making really, really the best fucking content you're aware of for free. And then the specifics of one particular company's whatever is why they consult with you, but figure out how to get yourself noticed, figure out what's working, and then maybe start running some ads on Facebook. And Facebook has an algorithm that targets. Learn about that. It's like, learn how Facebook ads work, take a class in it, and then get out there and just fucking do it. Just fucking do it, brother. And there's a lot of people who are, and don't charge cheap, charge expensive. Be the best, not the cheapest, is all I can tell you. You will never beat people in foreign lands in cheapest because of the currency exchange. I'm assuming that as an English speaker on my list, you had enough money to pay for this. There are people out there that are working cheaper than you. So be the best. Be the best. Oh, and by the way, a little quote from my buddy Brian Franklin, who's a genius business consultant he's consulted with many companies that were like at the $20-30 million mark and turned them into billion-dollar companies. This guy's a fucking genius. And he said, and I quote, the extent to which you don't work on becoming the very best in your field is the exact degree to which you doubt your capability to do it. So don't doubt yourself. It's like be the best, and that might mean studying and working hard, or even hiring, people who are smarter than you in those areas that are not your expertise, or partner with them. Simon says, what about dealing with a spouse who feels you're home too much and they can't get space from you? Okay. So, it's kind of my wheelhouse. You guys have to just set some rules and boundaries around that. Recognize that you and your spouse, all couples, it's funny, I was literally just coaching somebody about this on a call today. Every couple has a mismatch on how much time they think they ought to spend together. Okay. So there are some people who really like tons of independence in their relationship. Like I go out with the boys, you go out with the girls, we get together and make love. And when we're not together, we do separate things. And I like a lot of free time. I like to be alone. I like to do my shit. I want my independence, but I love you. I love you. And it doesn't mean they love you less. It's just the way they're wired. And there are people who are like, I think we should, get ourselves surgically attached by the nose skin so we can spend eternity staring into each other's eyes, whatever else we're doing. And there's everything in the spectrum in between. But no matter how compatible you are on that level, and you might be incompatible on that level, sometimes people who are really opposites on that level end up in a relationship. But even like my wife and I are super close, we both really like to spend a lot of time together. It doesn't matter. One of you will always be slightly more than the other. And then resentment occurs in that delta between I want to spend more time with her so she doesn't love me as much as I love her. Or he's always on me. It's a little bit, So that's going to be a conflict in every relationship just because it's impossible that you guys are exactly matched. There's going to be some small delta. And so she wants a little more independence than you do. And that's it, right? I mean, that's it. So you guys need to carve out some rules around that and just say, yeah, I'm home, but we're not going to talk to each other. We're going to ignore each other, or I'm going to be in this room, you're going to be in that room, or I'm going to work at a coffee shop. And right now in COVID, she better fucking get used to it, right? But you guys have got to make the rules that work in your relationship and recognize that this difference doesn't mean anything that should cause friction. And that when you give her space, when you say, hey, you know what, honey, why don't you just go and do your own thing right now, that's you giving her love, right? And when she's kind of crabby and just go, honey, I think you need some space right now. Why don't you go, do a yoga class and wherever, you know what I mean? Like send her out or you go out, like give her space, go to the park, do something, but be intentional about it. And then same thing, she'll notice sometimes you're kind of down and whatever. And because she knows that this is a thing, that you like quality time more than she does, when she's, resourced enough, she can say, hey, honey, I was thinking maybe we should spend tonight staring into each other's eyes all night. You know what I mean? Like give each other the gift of honoring your differences. And when you start doing that intentionally, when the conversation isn't under the table and resentful and feeling badly and only erupts when one of you feels shitty, like, oh, you never spend any time with me, you don't love me, or you're always on me, I give you some time, you're always at home, I can't think my own thoughts. If instead of doing that, you actually have explicit, loving conversations around this, then it becomes easy. It really does become easy, and it becomes something that you get to give each other as a gift instead of feeling like an obligation, like, oh, I got to fucking leave my own house so that my wife can be alone. What the fuck is that? You know what I mean? Like love each other in that and give it to each other as a gift and be conscious about the conversation, and it gets easy. All right. How do I use this in person 9 to 5, making real stuff? Well, it's exactly the same, Harold. I mean, the question is when are you procrastinating? What are you procrastinating? And then apply these tools, right? It doesn't matter whether you're making a product or a digital product. You're selling stuff. You got to work hard. The good news that you have, and you already know this works. I happen to know that Harold has a big company with a bunch of employees, like 100 people, maybe more. I don't know, but that you have all these dependencies. So, that's why you probably get your shit done. I know you do get your shit done because you're very successful. So if you want to get your shit done even more, then, these are the tools, man. I mean, I just think this stuff works. Like when it's time for you to sit down and pound out some creative copy or, whatever it is. I don't know how you spend your day, brother, but whatever that is, that important thing that you really need to get done, put on the headset, set the timer, make sure you slept well, get the right nutrition, all that stuff. And then if you don't get it done, don't punish yourself by working on the weekend. Go play, spend time with your kids. Everything in this outline applies to all that. Bill says, imagine finding purpose may help alleviate procrastination. Am I on target? Yeah, I mean, that was my whole thing about find something inspiring. Find something that inspires you. If you're not inspired by what it is you're doing, you're not doing the right thing. And particularly if listen, honestly, there's a universe of people who are not interested in this training. A universe of people who, when it's time to work, they fucking sit down and work. I had this neighbor, Chris, who was a hedge fund manager, and then he started working, this infrastructure project where he was building cell phone towers in hurricane devastated Caribbean nations and had 6 million employees. This guy, man, he would just grind day and night. He time to work, he just fucking grind. I mean, this guy just never procrastinated. He was an all-star football player in an Ivy League college. And this guy, this guy could work. Not me, man. I'm an ADD procrastinating. If I didn't have these tools, I would be an insignificant human. I would make no impact on anybody. I couldn't have a business. I couldn't afford a family. I'd still be a bartender. Without these tools, I would be nobody. But there are people who don't, they can just sit down and fucking work. I'm not that guy. I've never been that guy. So if you're listening to me, if you can hear my voice, then this is an issue for you. And yeah, you're going to need to figure out what inspires you. And what inspires you might also make it easier for you to procrastinate because it's scary. It means something to you. And that's why you really got to pay attention to all that stuff in those early slides around figuring out how to motivate yourself. That's not fear and loathing and shame, right? What if you want to do something online but don't know what to do? Okay, so that's a big question, obviously. First of all, I highly recommend that, like me and like Eben, you sell either information or software or some other thing that has a low or zero cost of goods, because it's much easier to start a business like that, right? I mean, you can start a business selling, supplements or selling exercise equipment or selling, which you're doing very well right now during COVID, right? Like home gyms, or you understand why. There's a lot of things you could do, right? But I really recommend that you figure out how to do something with like some kind of a software or an app or something like that. If you've got something like that in you, you can teach something, because low cost of goods makes it easier to start that business. So, that's my recommendation on that. But honestly, Jade, the main fucking thing is that you figure out what it is you want to give. That's more important than what it is you want to sell. Like, figure out what you're trying to give people. Like, what's your magic power that you want to share? Harold, who asked the earlier question, I mentioned he had a big company. His company sells Frisbees. They sell Frisbees because he fucking loves Frisbee, right? And he was a world champion, in fact, in Frisbee golf. So, he loves that. It's his passion. And he wants other people to experience the joy, the bliss, the complete disconnect from reality and flow state that comes from this beautiful sport that he loves. So who are his customers? People that love what he loves. And he makes the very, very best piece of equipment on earth for them. He's just giving the joy that's his joy. You got to figure out your joy. You got to figure out what fills you up, man? What fills you up? Because that is the answer to that question. Like, what do you want to give other people? And then figure out how to get involved in making that shit happen. That's really, really where you want to start. And then there's a million things you could do. You could sell shit on Amazon by, finding a manufacturer in China. You could, there's so many ways to skin the cat, but first you got to figure out what it is you want to give. Don't worry about how you're going to do it. Forget how you're going to do it. You can figure that out later. Just figure out what you want to give, and then we'll talk. Because then, drawing the line of how to do it turns out to be easier than figuring out the thing you really want to do. And if you really want to do it, if you really love it, if it's something, then trust me, other people love it too. You're not that unique, insane of a person. There's for every, there's somebody out there whose favorite thing in the world is, I don't know. I have some kind of foot fetish thing, but only the little toe. And I'm telling you, if that's you, you've got a tribe out there. Whatever your weird thing is, there's a tribe who agree with you. And by the way, the smaller and weirder it is, the easier it is to get successful. Because, you're not competing with Coca-Cola. In terms of marketing, I think I heard you say there were practices that you could do that would be very effective, but don't align with your morals. Can you expand on that at all, and how you navigate the marketing verse with your principles? It's a huge challenge for me, first of all. And second of all, as at least half of you who showed up here know, I'm changing my business model. I'm actually going into a new niche where, for those of you that don't know me at all, who see this in the future, I teach sex, relationship, and intimacy. And the other people in my niche, in my space, have figured out that the marketing that works the best is pretty sleazy. But because that's the marketing that works, the sleazy stuff, and it makes sense in the sex and relationship space that might work, because the sleazy stuff works, that's de facto, by a Darwinian method, they're the ones who are most successful. Now, their stuff isn't any good. And they don't care that their stuff isn't good, because they never set out to make a good program. They set out to market to a niche, and they were marketers. The marketers beat them. There were already people who were in the space like me, who were doing pretty well because, we have something important we want to tell people. And they were like, we can beat these guys. And they did, right? They did. And the sleaziest stuff worked the best. So all I need to do is the same sleazy thing and I can compete with them, but I don't want to. So that's why I'm going more into personal development right now, right? Because the marketers in that space that I'll be competing with don't have sleazy marketing, and I feel like I can, compete with them on a much more even playing field. So that's why. But it is hard to navigate, and there will be times when you may have to kind of, there are people out there who are like, my program is wonderful. I'm going to help the people who get it, and telling a couple of lies along the way, exaggerating some stories, or making up the testimonials and then hiring somebody to shoot the testimonial, an actor to shoot it. Like, that's fair game, because at the end of the day, they're going to get the product that they need to help them, which is my vitamin that's going to help them lose weight, right? So, and it may be really hard if you have a supplement that helps people lose weight to compete with that guy if you don't want to play that sleazy game, because they're willing to, and they sleep well at night because they can talk themselves into, that the ends justify the means. And you might be able to too. Like, it's an individual debate that everybody has to have with themselves. Like, you need to make your own decisions on that. I don't do that, but that's not because I'm right or better or whatever. It's because that's just who I am. Like, it's not part of the way I'm wired. But that said, I've made a lot of compromises in my marketing that I don't like. I've made a lot of compromises in my marketing that I don't like. But I felt okay, I can live with this. This isn't that bad. I'd love to say that I've made no compromises in my marketing, but it's not true. And that's part of the reason I'm leaving this niche behind. I just don't feel like I can, it asks too many compromises of me. And it's also why I've been doing these 5-day challenges, because I can show somebody in that 5 days that I can change their lives. And then they're much more willing to do business with me without me having to really convince them with a big, crazy sales letter, right? So that's why I'm doing that. But the answer to the question is that ain't easy. That ain't easy. You're going to have to figure it out. But there are ways of doing it in a really honorable way, depending on the niche that you go into. Kip, how many evolutions has your path, niche, et cetera, gone through? Well, this is the first really, really big one. I think I started, I'd written these articles on how to be better in bed, right? And then a lot of people have a lot of difficulty and shame around sexuality, and Eben said, hey man, a lot of people, they have no place to turn. They don't want to ask anybody. And there's a lot of bullshit out there. There's a lot of absolute garbage out there. And the stuff that you're writing is really cool. Write a book. So that's where I started. And, then I went into relationship because I'm actually more interested in relationship. I'm actually better at that, honestly. So that felt super aligned, but it doesn't sell as well, shockingly, right? So I guess that was an evolution. At some point, I realized that YouTube was super good for me. So YouTube has been a massive, massive source of growth for my particular program. But I think other people find that ads are better. And I made some pivots as far as that goes. Anyway, now I'm making, the biggest pivot that I've made, which I'm actually rebranding myself. And I'm going to use a different name, right? It's going to be a really separate company. I'm not even going to reference this business in the new business. So I'm really stepping out into an entirely new place. Because I don't, for the person who Googles Alex Allman, right, they're going to find all that sex stuff. And if I'm going into personal development, I don't want to scare some people away who Google Alex Allman and like, all this guy talks about is, sex. Why, so I'm really leaving Alex Allman behind with a new brand. While continuing, I'll do both, but my focus is going to be on the new one. Conway, what was the breakfast thing you mentioned with the corn husk, the one that saves time? Yeah, so it's not breakfast. It's Bulletproof Coffee. It's a cup of coffee. is what it is, with MCT oil in it. So that's medium chain triglyceride, MCT, which is a particular kind of fat. And the way fats are metabolized in your body is there's these three long strings, right, and a glycerin. The glycerin and three long strings. And then the liver takes that glycerin off, and it can make that into glycogen, which it later uses as sugar energy. And those three strings go floating around. Now, it turns out they're called ketones, right? And it turns out your body can use those for energy too, but it usually won't. It just stores them as fat, or it gets rid of them. It usually won't use them as energy because the mitochondria in your body prefer sugar to fat, to these ketones, but not your brain. Your brain preferentially likes ketones, but it rarely gets them. It rarely gets them because there's plenty of glucose in your blood. This is the theory, by the way. I am not a doctor, but this is the theory. And there's a particular kind of, some of these little strings are longer and some are shorter. And it turns out the medium ones, called the medium chain triglycerides, they're the ones that are preferentially burned by your brain, and particularly MCT8, which has 8 carbons. And if you go on Amazon, you can find MCT powder. You'll find 1 billion of them. The biggest brand is Brain Octane from the brand Bulletproof, Bulletproof Executive. But he doesn't make a powdered one. And frankly, it's the most expensive. There's no reason. There's cheaper ones out there. And I found one that works great for me. I'm not going to hawk their brand. There's plenty of them. But basically, the original recipe for Bulletproof Coffee is you take a scoop of coconut oil, which is mainly medium chain triglycerides. Coconut oil turns out to be mainly medium chain triglycerides. So you take a scoop of coconut oil and a scoop of butter, and you stick it in a blender with coffee. And then the butter keeps the coconut oil from just floating to the top. It works as an emulsifier, which it does in French cooking as well. That's how the French make those tasty sauces. So that's why you're putting the butter in. I don't want the butter. And I don't want the butter for a number of reasons. One of which is I think it's going to shorten my life. There are people who are like, no, if it's grass-fed butter, it's healthy. Bullshit. I don't want those extra triglycerides in my blood. I just don't want them in there, right? So the butter works great for our purposes. So you could just do a tablespoon of butter, a tablespoon of coconut oil, and 16 ounces of coffee, 14 to 16 ounces of coffee in a blender. Drink that. You won't be hungry for way longer than if you ate I used to eat a huge breakfast, bowl of oatmeal, 3 eggs with beans and vegetables. That used to be my breakfast. And I'd be hungry like an hour and a half later. I drink the Bulletproof Coffee and I'm good for 4 hours. Now I'm good all the way until 3 o'clock because I've worked up to it. And so anyway, I probably spent more time on this than I should have, but the basic recipe is a tablespoon of butter, a tablespoon of coconut oil, and coffee. If you buy just medium chain triglycerides, it's more refined than the coconut oil also has some other fat in it. If you buy just the medium chain triglycerides, so that's why I buy that. And then there's this powdered version that uses plant fiber instead of butter to emulsify it so you can dissolve it in your coffee. That's why I get the powder. But the butter works fine if you want to just use the liquid. Otherwise, it's a liquid. You pour like a tablespoon of this oil in your coffee and then a scoop of butter and you blend it. That's recipe 2. And recipe 3 is you use the powder. And you can just stir it with a spoon. Kip says, I've become a believer in intermittent fasting. I never was, hated the idea, but finally a few months ago, I gave it a shot. And I got to admit, I can tell the difference in productivity, energy, mindset, and even pride. Yeah, man, I don't know. A lot of people say it helps them with weight loss too. I don't want to lose weight. If I lose weight, I'm going to die. So I eat like an animal, start 3 o'clock. But by then I've gotten twice as much work done as I used to. So it really works for me. I mean, and one of the reasons it works is it stops snacking, right? If I eat a big breakfast, then I'm not fasting. And if I'm not fasting, then I'm eating. And I'm back and forth to the kitchen all fucking day. I'm back and forth to the kitchen. And that shit is time consuming. So I cut that whole conversation out. And I'm not lazy when it comes to cooking, by the way. I make myself elaborate breakfasts and lunches. And it's stupid, it's stupid. So I cut that whole conversation out of my mind by not eating until 3 o'clock. So it really works for me. But obviously, if you're hypoglycemic, the shit's not going to work for you. say again what you said about the amount you won't learn to be the best in your field is the amount you don't believe in yourself or something like that. You know what? Let me see if I can find the exact quote from my buddy Brian Franklin, because I wrote it down. So bear with me for 1 second while I open up another window, because he's that brilliant. Let's see if I can find it. And by the way, I'm pretty sure that Brian is also going to be doing one of these trainings that Eben is collecting, and I'll bet it's going to be super good because Brian's smart like that. I hope I have it. After teasing it this way. All right. Maybe I don't have it. Well, God damn it. I apologize for the tease. I literally was just looking at it the other day, which is why I know I have it on my system somewhere. All right, I'm going to give it to you as best I can, buddy. The degree to which you don't invest in becoming world-class in your field, the degree to which you don't invest in becoming world-class in your field is the exact degree to which you don't believe that you can be, world-class in your field. So, a lot of us will mouth off that we can be world-class, but we're not investing in becoming really, really world-class, really among the best in the world. And, it shows. It shows. Harold says, the quote you shared from War of Art is particularly useful for someone using preparation to get asymptotically close to action while procrastinating and taking the final step. Yes, so an asymptote, for those of you who aren't math majors, is a curve that gets infinitely closer to the axis without ever touching it. So you're getting closer and closer to making your move, but you never actually do it. Infinitely. That's asymptotically. So yeah, we procrastinate taking the final step. Yes, The War of Art is the best book I know for dealing with that shit. It's the best book I know for dealing with that shit, for like just getting yourself to do that thing that's important to you that you keep putting off. It's confronting. And one of the things it shows you is that, which is true, the more creative you are, the more artistic you are in your endeavors in life, the more likely you are to be a procrastinator and have some attention deficit in your life, because those things tend to travel together. Now, people who are highly creative and highly disciplined are super rare, and their names are Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, you know what I mean? Like they are like the hyper performers in the world. So if you're super disciplined, you're not on this call, you weren't interested in this topic. So I'm not talking, like you're not even here. But if you're here, likely you have some creative gifts. And likely you grapple a bit with this other half. And so these tools help us to give our gift, to move the needle and make the world a better place. Jade says, thank you, Alex Ullman. You're welcome, my friend. You are welcome. And all right, so that brings us to the end of my question list. Guys, thanks so much for showing up and asking questions. I know it just makes this into a much better resource for people when you've asked your questions, the same questions that other people have, of course. We all have the same questions. So you've really helped other people get more value out of this training by showing up and asking your questions. So I bow to you. I thank you for helping me do this. And, for those of you who I'm going to be seeing in my little membership programs, see on the interwebs. And for those of you who are seeing me for the first time, best of luck to you. There's a real exciting opportunity, and you have found the best resource available. You already heard me talk about what a fucking badass Eben is. Let me tell you, everybody else who he's talked to, because he brought us together in a group to make this ask, these are some of the most impressive humans. They are at another level, man. And every one of these trainings is going to be worth your time. I am confident of that. So go kick ass. You are literally in the best place you can be. and make your life something beautiful, something magical, and give back to the world. And I'm looking forward to seeing your name big